G'day everyone, hope you're well. I thought it might be good for me to take you on a deep dive of the simulator, bit by bit, a complete walk around. So grab yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, glass of wine, a beer, whatever takes your fancy. Sit back, relax. This is going to be a long one, a detailed one, but it's a complete walk around of the sim. See you soon. So here we go guys, walking in. You're first greeted by the driving sim, but we're not here for that today, and it's currently off at the moment. What we're here for is that bad boy there. We're looking at the flight simulation. So I'm going to spend quite a few minutes now taking you through all of the aspects of it. Let's go and start over here at the now redundant operator station. So the operator station itself, I used to use this quite a bit, and that was when I had a fully enclosed simulator. The operator station came in very handy for me because I was able to configure all of the flight details and so on at the operator station there. And then once that was all done, I would literally walk my way around into the simulator and be able to start up cold and dark. And that was one of the intents of using the operator station. Set the scenario up over there, particularly when I was using X-Plane, and then run that in there, cold and dark. But now I've made the modification, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I don't need to do that anymore. So the operator station is no longer used. The only time I'd use this operator station now, if I'm doing any PC work, and I'll show you the PC configuration in a moment at the back of the simulator, I'd pull the PC out because it's a bit difficult to get to where it is, and I'd bring it round to the front here, and I would hook it up to the HDMI, and it's got some local power, and I'd be able to use that monitor for doing any PC configuration based work if I need to, be that software updates or hardware, not so much software, but hardware updates in particular. This was just a simple desk. 32-inch 4K monitor, standard Logitech keyboard, obviously pens and pencils, calculator, and a drawer with some knickknacks in it. What's in the drawer, you ask? Let's have a look. Not much. Cleaning cloth, an old hard drive, some cables, pretty standard stuff really, and an old Windows disk there as well. Nothing much in there. That's the operator station. Let's move our way around and do a more of a global view of the simulator itself. So she's up and running at the moment. I'm just about to get myself configured for a flight today, but there we go. I've got the screens themselves, triple 55-inch 4K 60 Hz screens, Samsung, and they're all the same. They're exactly the same unit, and if you want to look at what that model is, I will show you right now as we turn that around, and I'm sorry if the camera's gone a bit cactus. What is that? That's a QA55Q or something, I think. QA55Q, there you go there. That's the Samsung units. HDMI cables are 2.1 HDMI cables. One of the mistakes that I made earlier on is I wasn't getting any more than 30 Hertz out of these monitors, and they are 60 Hertz monitors. And I realized quite quickly that my cables were only 1.4 version, not 2 or 2.1. They're now 2.1 version HDMI cables, very important. We'll come into the simulator in a moment, but what I'll do is take you around the back, and then we'll get back to the simulator itself inside. Oh, by the way, there's a key light. So the key light that I use, as you can see now, is firing over the sim and would fire down onto me there. The key light is used basically for lighting when I'm either streaming or doing recordings of myself, and it's on its own free stand, as you can see right there. A little bit of a cable mess around the back there as we go around the back of the simulator. There's just a switch there coming off of the main thing, feeding both the simulator and the driving simulator. Come around the back, just a fan. No real reason that's there other than just some storage, got nothing to do with the simulator as such. There's the brains, that is the computer, and all the specs of the computer are in the description below, but basically that's running a 14900K CPU with a 3090 Ti EVGA graphics card. Desperately waiting for the 5090s, but pretty much like everyone else, you can't get them. Cable management was another area that I took quite a bit of time with, excuse my language there. With this one, as you can see, I've tried to keep the cabling quite tidy all the way through, and I use a single USB hub, just one there with, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ports on it. All of them are being used, and pretty much all of the USB ports are being used through there as well. You'll notice as well, I take the time to label each of those, and that's because here, and I've talked about this before, I've got a map of where they go, and that comes in handy just for when I'm plugging things back in once I've pulled the PC out. And you remember before I was saying why? Well, you can look at the space here, it's quite tight, you know, to get in to work on that PC. So really, if I need to do any physical upgrades to it, be it putting in a new hard drive or RAM or whatever, I've really got to pull the whole thing out. So I will literally go in there, unplug everything and pull it out. You might not be able to see this, but I'll take you through it anyway. There's a bit of cabling under here. So here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's a Leo Bodnar board. That's a BU0836X Leo Bodnar board. And that is fundamentally taking the linear potentiometers of the throttle and the mixture, and this is the box there. You can see that grey box there is effectively the center console there, which we'll see from the front in a moment, that grey box that you can see painted down there, and you're probably not going to be able to see this. It's very difficult to see. I don't know if you can sort of pick that up. See that flashing green there? That's effectively the trim indicator, and that is hooked up to an Arduino board, which is that Arduino just there now. So that's that one there. What else have we got? So I can come back here. So we've got effectively a butt kicker, and you can see that's the amplifier there for the butt kicker. Now I've got the actual transducer or speaker, if you like, under the floor. I can't show you that today, but it's effectively under the floor. There's also a little bit of dust picking up on this as well, so it probably needs a bit of a clean. And this is the Logitech speaker system. This is the sub that sits there. I can't remember the model of this. I think it's a Z207 or something like that, but I'll think about that, and I think it's in the description below as well. Yeah, so that's the back really. Looking at the up here, you can see it's quite crude, but effective, certainly visually anyway. I don't have a force feedback yoke system. Effectively, the yokes that I've got are 3D printed yokes, and they're on aluminium shafts. And you can see this is the pilot one here, and this is where all the smarts go. So basically the pilot yoke comes through here. It's sitting on a carriage, so these are draw sliders here, which is on a common carriage that is I think it's 12mm MDF. And they run through two bearings, plumber block bearings, as you can see either side. Now on this side here, I've got a 3D printed bracket there on a potentiometer for roll with a little plug that's in the back of that, like that. So that gives me my roll. And similarly, I devised another potentiometer there, and that gives me the pitch. So if I can just demonstrate that, you'll see how that moves up and down as I move. And that's my pitch, and then obviously for roll, and excuse the camera work here, but I'm trying to get that while holding a camera, but you can see that there, and that rolls the plug piece there like that. And all of those pieces here were all 3D designed and printed, as was that at the back as well. And that's literally on a mechanical link, so you can see the roll there, it's just on a mechanical link, and it links back to the other one. So if I can zoom out a bit, you can see that there. So that's what gives the effect of the two yokes. The bands here, all they do is provide some resistance. So it just gives me a little bit of that resistance and to help do the self-centering. Because without the banding, you wouldn't have any self-centering. It also overcome effectively the weight and the force of each of these as well. Otherwise, they're a little bit too heavy. So I played around with bungee cords and other sorts of things. And at the end of the day, I found that an elastic bands, albeit they're a certain size, seem to suit quite well. It's not perfect self-centering, but it certainly gives me enough resistance to be able to, to feel it pretty well. But ultimately, I think, you know, to get a off-the-shelf yoke is probably the way to go, because they, you know, you'll end up having a lot better. But for me personally, this is great, and it serves a purpose for what I need in my GA flying. There's just some guides down here, and that's just to keep that carriage running in line so that it doesn't sort of get out of sync or out of whack. And there's one on either side that you can see there as well. What else have we got here missed at the back? Not much else really. You can just see the front screen is on a frame mount, and the whole frame itself is timber. It's a timber frame, painted black. So, you know, and yeah, pretty straightforward, but it's a timber frame, and I think I've shown that before. It was all done in Fusion 360, and then the sides are on independent monitor stands, and you can see them there, and that's one on the left, and there's another exactly the same one on the other side as well. I connect the monitors simply using Gorilla Tape, and I wrap the Gorilla Tape around like that. Yes, you've got the bezel that you can see, but this Gorilla Tape really helps to hide any light bleeding coming in and so on, and that's there. Now across the top here, again, you can see it as well, and we'll show this when we get inside the simulator, but again, I've got a piece of 6mm MDF painted. I think it's about 700mm from memory in that direction there, and it runs the full width of the simulator as one, and it's locally stiffened underneath just to make sure that it doesn't bow at all. And I've just literally got what I used to use, some material, but that's just sitting there over the top more than anything, not doing anything at all. And that's just to provide a little bit of a roof cover when we get inside the simulator, which is what we're about to do now. That's a pair of PlayStation 5 headphones. They're not used for the simulator, they're used for that, which is the subject of another discussion. So I'll go from the outside here first, and maybe just hopefully you can see all of this inside. So I'll jump in, and I may have to zoom in. So I'm now sitting in the pilot's seat, so you get an idea as to what I see. Oh, there we go. You can see me zooming around as we've got OBS up on the screen. So let's go around and have a look at, I guess, the big part of it. I'm going to get rid of that because that's really annoying me. So we're going to get rid of that as well, just to get that off the screen. Don't like looking at myself when I'm taping away. Okay, so here we go. Let's go from the top panel first. So the top panel here, this Glareshield, this was built, and I've got a video on this from memory if you check back in the history as to how I did that. And again, that was a Fusion 3D project, and then I used some cardboard and some dowels and some foam and so on, and really got that, and some local upholsterer helped me pull that together. But that literally just lifts off. That whole Glareshield there, as I zoom back a bit, just lifts off and is quite good. But there's a separate video on that. Check back in the history. This is a PlayStation 4 controller. That PlayStation 4 controller is charging at the moment off of a charging thing. Now again, this is also 3D printed, this piece here. Basically, this is a USB port that actually goes direct back to a charging port on the back of the computer, and that enables me to charge the PlayStation controller. And this one here is a headphone jack. So again, at the back of this, there's obviously an extension cable that goes through and goes to the computer. So that's how I plug my headphones in as well to do that there. So that's that. What's next to that? Well, you've got effectively a pair of Logitech G Pro headphones. They're my main headphones that I use. I normally hang those at the back of the monitor up there. But I've just got them off at the moment, so that's those there. To the right, a notepad. Notepad gets used just for writing crap down, really. This, as you can see, I think, what's this one here? This is a run sheet for a recent stream, but any ideas, any future videos, any troubleshooting, effectively a notepad comes in handy, and I use that all the time as well. As we get down further into the panel, we've got a combination here now of both purchased items and 3D printed, and I'll take you through each one. That there, excuse that cable, that is a Simionic switch panel. Okay, so that I originally had 3D printed and designed, built my own 3D switch panel, but eventually for the price, this was a bit of a bargain really, and it's been such a great unit. That's the switch panel that I've got from Simionic. And in a similar vein with Simionic, both the primary flight display and the audio panel and the multifunction display, so MFD and PFD, these are also Simionic bezels, okay? Inside of those Simionic bezels are 9.7-inch iPads. And if you're familiar with the Simionic units, they basically have iPad software. There's an app that you can download. You don't even need to have the bezels. You can just download the app as it is. And via some bridge software, they will actually talk to your simulator. And I've talked about these in the past. They're actually great. And I use them primarily to try and reduce the load that would otherwise be generated from a single PC. So because these are running on a Wi-Fi signal, they're not pulling any additional monitors down to run from your simulator, and therefore reducing some of that general graphical load and things that your CPU needs to worry about. Down here, well, there's an iPad mini, and you can see the iPad mini there, and I use this. This is directly mounted to the yoke. How is it mounted to the yoke? Well, if I show you that yoke there, which is the cockpit one, basically what I've got, I guess, on the pilot side is 4 little spot and hook Velcros. So there's just little 4 spot and hook Velcros that I've got on the back of that. And so that's how that, and that can literally just come straight off that. In fact, we might just take that off now. As I do that there, and there they are there, and there's the Velcros. So that's the Velcro tabs. I'll leave that off. I'll put that up the top there like that for the time being. And there it is there. So this is a 3D printed. I didn't do this model. I managed to get this model. I can't remember now. I paid for this model somewhere. But it comes in 4 parts. So you can see the seam down the middle there. So there are effectively 4 parts to it. And I've done a separate video on this, so feel free to check that one out. But these are very sturdy. You know, the infill I used for 3D printing was quite high. So they're quite solid. They don't move at all. And yeah, very happy with these, and they certainly give me what I need. I've got push to talk. I've got electric trim if I need it. Another toggle one over here, and another push button there as well. So yeah, that's that there. Underneath that, and I'm going to just zoom down underneath here and just show you this here. So that is 3D printed, I guess the circuit breaker panel, if you like, with a effectively a ignition barrel here, magnetos and ignition. This unit here was purchased from Simionic, and the beauty I like about this one, it's a spring return on it, although the spring is starting to go now. It does do it, but as you can see, it's not as spring as it used to be. But that is a spring return ignition there. Now the circuits themselves, they're just, as you can see, that's just aesthetic, right? So there is nothing there at all. That's 3D printed. It was raised lettering. It's a white PLA that I used, painted it grey, and then used wet and dry to reveal the lettering. And it turned out quite well. So yeah, not too bad. It does a purpose of giving, I guess, an illusion that you've got some circuit breakers on there. Underneath that, you can see I've got a handbrake, and again, this is also a 3D printed unit. It's effectively a limit switch that's inside of this box here, and the handle does move, and I appreciate, sorry that I've got the cabling in the way. I'll get that cable out of the way. Handle does rotate and moves back, okay, like that. Just trying to get it in the right thing, and it's actually on its own spring. There we go, there, like that. A bit difficult for me to move with one hand. What else have we got? So coming across here now, so the actual back panel there is 3D printed, but these standby gauges are a new addition to the simulator, and again, they are Simionic standby gauges. I used to have standby gauges that were 3D printed. Captain Bob, kudos to him. Go to his website, check out how to do those standby gauges, and they served me pretty much for close to 3 years. I've only just recently moved across to these, And the beauty of these is, again, you know, they interface directly with the computer. They're backlit, and they're effectively LCD screens, which you can customize and change. So they're very handy. So that's those. Moving across, if I just go down to here, so the flaps panel here, the flaps panel itself, the actual flaps controller, I guess the bit that's behind this, was Desktop Aviator. And what I did is I just modified his front plate here to just do my plate, so I can have some raised lettering, similar approach to what I did on the circuit breakers. White PLA, this time painted black, and then wet and dry to reveal the lettering. But yeah, used that, and that's your standard flaps controller there. To the right over there, and you can, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's just tucked away inside there. I've got a little I call it the glove blocks, but a little storage piece there. You can see the red light at the moment. What that means is that the butt kicker itself is off, but I'm able to turn that on and off here, rather than going around to the back where the amplifier is, so I can actually turn it on and off here. There's the co-pilot's yoke. If I move the pilot's yoke, you can see, there we go, turning left and right and in and out. So it's obviously using that linkage that I showed you before, and that's there. And then, you know, just to show people, I've got a little welcome to SESSIM up there again, all 3D printed. The panel itself, the actual main panel, if you like, where everything's hooked into, that is 6mm MDF. And that panel, if I zoom back out, and I think I've also done a video on this, that panel was designed in Fusion 360, but then what I did is I was able to export at the time a DXF file. I exported that DXF file and gave that to a CNC machinist who put it on their routing machine, and they were then able to cut that down to size, and it worked out millimetre perfect. So yes, if you've got access to a machinist who has a CNC routing machine and they can accept the DXF file, it saves you a whole heap of hand cutting, because the accuracy is fantastic. Pretty much all of this, provided you're dimensionally correct in your model, it turned out beautifully. So that was that there. What have I got underneath? So here we've got Turtle Beach rudder pedals. They used to have the old Logitech/Cytec versions. I'm now using these Turtle Beach ones. I like them. Yeah, they're not too bad. They've got the toe brakes, and you can see they've got the Cessna style yoke arrangement, rudder arrangement to them. So they work quite well, and I really do like those Turtle Beach rudder pedals. Over here, we've got at the moment just throttle and mixture, and this is fully 3D printed and designed. I've done a separate video on this, so feel free to check that out. But that's on linear potentiometers, 100mm travel linear potentiometers, and both of those talk to the Bodnar BU0836X board, and yeah, work quite well for throttle and mixture. Trim wheel here, so again, trim wheel works really well. That's on a rotary encoder. Again, 3D printed and designed. It's in my Fusion model. And the indicator here, which is off at the moment, that's obviously running through the Arduino board, the indicator. And I use MobiFlight software to use the indicator, which is where that works as well, and that's just simply on a servo-based control. But again, you should find separate videos on that through my channel. Feel free to have a look. Underneath that, as we look at the center console, I've got a Stream Deck, a mini one here. I don't actually use that Stream Deck as such. I'll zoom back a bit just so we can see it. I don't use that Stream Deck really in the grand scheme of things, because I've got a bigger one which I'll show you in a moment. But yeah, it's just there to effectively fill in a space. I used to have just a series of toggle switches in here. I think there were 6 of them from memory, just for various miscellaneous functions. And I ended up having this spare Stream Deck, so I've replaced it and put it in there as well. But at the moment, doesn't really do anything, just sits there for, I guess, visual purposes more than anything. Here's the fuel selector. So again, this is also 3D printed, again, painted, white PLA, raised lettering, and then wet and dry to reveal the lettering. It's obviously in 3 directions, so left, center, and right. What's underneath that is a 3-way switch, 90-degree switch from an electronics store. That switch wasn't cheap, by the way. I can't remember exactly, but I think I paid about 50 Australian dollars for it, or 60 Australian dollars for it, that switch. If I've got a picture of it, I'll show it up on the screen as I talk about this now. But yeah, that's a 90-degree switch, and again, each of those terminals is connected to that Bodnar board that I mentioned before. And yeah, and that whole center console there is 6mm MDF, all painted in grey. There you go. This is my Logitech, zoom out. This is the Logitech, what is it, an Attack 3? Yeah, there we go, Attack 3. This was the first flight simulation device that I ever had. Still got it after many years, still wonderful, love it. It's parked down there because sometimes I use it if I'm deciding that I want to do like a, I don't know, a fighter jet or something, like a Red Bull air race or something. I don't really use it very much, but it is there. That's the Logitech Attack 3. Yeah, quite useful. There it is there in all its glory. What else did I missed something else. I can just see I've chucked down here. What have I got there? What is that? Oh, it's for an upcoming series. By the time you see this, it should be in there. Papua New Guinea. We're doing some Papua New Guinea stuff soon, so I just chucked that down there. Bit untidy, but no one sees it. There we go. The carpet you're looking at here as well is actually, and I'll just go back out of the simulator just to come before I come back in. But that whole carpet there, as you can see, I ended up cutting. As you can see that there, it's cut around the console as well, and sort of like a bit of a, I guess, a shape. And so that was measured, and then I went to a local carpet store and got some remnant, and then went to I can't remember what they're called, I guess an upholsterer or whatever you call them, and they actually put the edging on of that. If you can see that there, they put some nice edging on that carpet, and yeah, and it just slots in, so I can pull that out. The reason I like to do that is because underneath here I obviously got all of my boarding, and you can see I haven't had to paint beyond a certain point, but all those boards are there as well. If you want to get yourself a water bottle, there's a quick plug, Sim. I've got a couple of things that you can buy off the merch store, but I use that mainly for my friends and family, but feel free if you want to support the channel. What else have we got to see? Oh, here we go. There's office chair. So with all of this stuff here, I still use an office chair. It comes in handy. Now, I haven't done any real long flights in it, but you know, it's quite comfortable. I can remove it so it gets out of my way very, very quickly. And it's, yeah, for if I'm doing 2, 3, I think I've been in it up to 4 hours, albeit with a toilet break in between, and it's not that bad. So yeah, as I sit myself back down in it now. So as I'm sitting here now, you can see the sort of view that I will get, and there's that roof piece there that you would have seen before, and you can see it's about 700 millimeters, and what it does is as I pan down now, it just gives me that, so I don't actually see, if you like, beyond here. It gives me that illusion of being a bit more enclosed, but being not too enclosed. While we're on that subject, there's the camera that I use when I'm generally doing my recordings or streamings that you will see. That's just a Logitech 922 camera. That bracket there was 3D printed by myself, and you can see that circular piece there. There's a cutout in the roof bit, obviously where the cable goes through. But I designed that in a way, if you have a look at that up in there, you can see how they're on slots, and that's so I can actually rotate that camera. So whilst the height is fixed, and I obviously did some toing and froing with the dimensions just to get that height right, I can actually rotate that around just for some finer adjustment to make sure that we've got the right camera angle as it looks at me for film work. There's the right hand screen there, and again you can obviously see me again in OBS, but that's my primary monitor now. So all of my apps and everything else that I'm using will go onto that primary monitor there. So if we pan down, there's another one, by the way. So on the co-pilot side, I've also got a a USB port and a headphone jack. The USB port at the moment is being used to effectively communicate with a small USB keyboard and mouse, and that's what we have here. So I don't know the brand of this one, but it's a smaller general keyboard, whilst I've got a general smaller little platform, if you like, because it's not even really a desk. I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, just a small little keyboard and mouse that I use. There's my larger Stream Deck. This is the one that I primarily use now for streaming and sounds and everything that I do. If you've joined any of my streams, you'll know the shenanigans that we get into. But all of my streaming controls, view controls on aircraft, anything is all programmed into this, and these are fantastic. So that's the Stream Deck XL. What's the harmonica doing in here, you might ask? So the harmonica's just something that I like to play around with. So, you know, every now and again I'll just throw that in, completely random, but, you know, that's the kind of thing that I am. This is a little IKEA unit that I got. It was just, I was restricted for space, so it was something that I wanted, very small, but also just gave me a couple of drawers as well that I could just put some things in. So that's what I've done. I can't remember the actual what it was, but it was from IKEA. It's not that big, as you can see, so it was quite handy. What's underneath that? Let's have a look. Couple of remotes. Oh geez, I'm going to get in here. Post-it note pad. That's the TV remote there. Sometimes gets used as a mobile phone when I'm getting a phone call via my streams. If you've watched, you'll get the idea. That's the remote for the key light as well. Turn that off and on. Underneath that, I've just got myself my disclaimer. What's that? That's my disclaimer that comes up if I have to read it to people. I don't need to do that anymore. Here's a little knee board that I use. There we go, put that out there. So if I want to put flight plans, if I'm getting a bit more serious, I'll put flight plans on that and use that and probably set it up there, something like that. That sits underneath there. Off to the right here, underneath there, you've got a couple of charging cables, a lightning cable as well, and the other cable's currently on charge with that there. What else have we got to show you around here? I think that's pretty well covered it. At the back here, again, these are little IKEA shelf units that I've mounted, and that's just got some flight planning type stuff in there. I've got VFR notes that I used to use quite a bit and still do there. I've got a similar one for IFR. What else have I got? I've got some ATC scripts and so on. So I've got one on that side. And if I go there, I've got the other one on the other side as well. If we go behind me, there's the one on that side as well. So this one's got more of the maps. So I've got, you know, maps that I used to have, some manuals and so on. What's this one? Here we go. So BATSIM, Class G IFR Operations Guide, communication procedures, phraseology, blah, blah, blah. So all those sort of reference manuals and so on, which I haven't done for quite some time, and I do need to get back into that at some point. But that's all for learning and reference. I think I've spoken largely about the frame itself. It recently went through an upgrade because this used to be fully enclosed all the way around there like that with a fully enclosed simulator. But you would have seen primarily the reasons why I've cut it down. And for me personally, it's a great, now that I've got it like this, I do prefer it in this configuration from where it was before. Not that there was a problem with it where it was before, because it was great with the operator station, but you know, I am getting into a bit more streaming type activity and so on, and it's just became a bit of a nuisance having to jump back and forth with having so much restriction as well, notwithstanding lack of cooling. And as you can appreciate, things get quite warm in this room with all these TVs running and that PC. In fact, even now without the air conditioning running, and that's the duct there, which now is conveniently pretty much above the simulator with an open roof. So you can imagine cooling, cold air sinks coming down. It gives me some beautiful cool air now and keeps the room relatively cool, but also more so myself inside of that as well. So that's it. That's pretty much the simulator itself. Pretty much done, and my finger's in the way, so there we go. I hope you enjoyed that bit of a walk around there. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I'll answer every single one of you. If you liked what you saw here, and I appreciate it, it was a pretty big deep dive into it, feel free to jump in, subscribe, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next one. Take care of yourself, and bye for now.